Hey there, Willie. Welcome to the Bloom Show, brought to you Bloom Show and the Flowers and Scents Show, brought to you by New Bloom Solutions, above all flowers and flowers and scents. Today's our, I don't know how many episodes we've had, Willie, but we've been working together a little bit.
Yeah, it's a few.
A
But this
few
is a
of
good.
them.
This is a really good one, though.
This is a great one, and this is one that it's basically a recap from our March WFFSA show, which was the Marketing Roundtable, in which we brought in that flower feeling and the Floral Board, and we had a discussion. And we had such a great response that we decided to do it again, especially after going to these shows and being at SAF and also of CalFlowers, hearing different messages. But then there's always questions. So today, truly, the opportunity is for our audience. We're going to be asking some questions, and we want our audience to ask questions. So throughout the whole presentation and interviews, we'll be asking questions. Not only that, we'll be encouraging the audience to ask questions. So please do feel free to the audience to ask questions as much as you can, and our guests will try to answer them. So let me introduce the guests by one, right, Willie? So I guess first, I saw a gentleman. I'm just going to go in order of how people showed up. Joost was actually dancing to our song. So I don't know if you saw that, but was dancing to the intro. So I like to introduce Joost. Let me give you a little background of Joost. Joost is at-large director of CalFlowers, Floral Abundance, and a few other things as well. So here's Joost. Hi, Joost.
Good morning, everybody. How are you today?
Very
He's
well,
not that
sir.
large.
He's not that large. And then now we have Mr. Steve Dion. Steve Dion is the executive director of CalFlowers. And he does a few other things, but Steve Dion is an awesome and done an amazing job with CalFlowers, and it's an honor to have him on board. So Mr. Steve Dion. There we go.
Hey guys, thanks for having us on today. We appreciate the opportunity to talk about that flower feeling.
And then we have Oscar Fernandez, sales manager of Equiflor. I think he does a lot more. As you know, he works with SAF as well. Many things that Oscar does, but it's an honor to have Oscar as well. So thank you to Oscar. And here's Oscar.
Hi, everyone. And I'm going to say good afternoon, Joost. I'm 3 hours ahead of you. So it's afternoon here. Sun's out. So here we go.
It's a beautiful day.
And then we have Mr. Eric Fernandez, general manager of Continental Flowers. Where is he? There he is.
Hi there.
And by the way, I was confused that Eric and Oscar are not related. Correct, guys?
No, we are not.
Oscar wished it.
But Oscar wishes. But you guys are pretty close. So, and then we have Jeannie Bose, vice president of CalFlowers. But more than that, she runs the San Francisco flower market, and for that, I have much respect for her because of what she did during COVID and what she continually does for an industry in one entire city. So, welcome on, Jeannie Bose.
Good morning, guys.
Hello,
Well,
Jeannie.
good afternoon.
Welcome, Jeannie.
Yeah, good afternoon for some and good morning for others.
Yeah.
A quick little note, Kuki from Africa says greetings to all. It's 8 p.m. in Kenya, so he made sure to let us know that it's good evening to him. So 8 p.m. in Kenya.
All right, thanks for listening.
Yeah.
So Willie, do you want to get started with some questions? I always like Willie to start.
You always do that to me. So hey, look, there is a big question that's swirling around in my mind. Everybody that I've talked to about this whole situation has said, okay, there's this one vote thing and versus big companies versus small companies. Might as well get right into that. And answer this question. If a company has one vote, what are they voting for? This is after assuming it passed, okay? What's that one vote get them that makes it such an obstacle?
And if I may, before we start real quick, anybody feel free to just chime in. I'll pick on people that I see quiet, but please feel free to chime in at everything.
I don't think you're going to have a problem with this.
I don't think so.
I think you're good.
Really, to answer directly your question. All right, the one vote. All right, that's the one company, one vote. That's just to pass it and to implement it.
No, but after it's passed.
After it's passed, after it's passed and it's implemented, and if Floral Board were to be passed, and of course, it's not just one company, one vote. It's also a 50% plus one share of both importers and domestic growers. Right. So both constituencies have to surpass the 50% bar, and it were to be passed. At that point, then the mechanism to implement Floral Board gets going. And then to implement Floral Board, to start the assessments, to start selecting the creative and whatnot, a board will be formed. USDA asks all the different industry associations across the US for the industry floral associations for nominees to that board. And then there is a formation of that board.
Okay, so the one vote issue is really just for the this whole thing taking off or
That's
getting
correct.
granted.
And after 4 years, as written currently in it, there has to be a renewal if we want a referendum to continue it. So if it fails at that, it just turns off and that's it.
And that again is where you may perhaps would have one vote.
One company.
Correct.
One
Yes.
company, one vote. And okay, so the only other question: what's to stop a company from having 3 companies? I mean, there's some big companies out there that have multiple brands. What does that give you 2 votes? Of what?
No, if you're Willie, if you have 3 companies and they all reach the threshold of importing X amount, they're going to get 3 votes if they're 3 separate companies.
And let me add, they have to be, for example, the importer side, they have to be importers of record.
I know. So yeah, so a big company might lose some of its consolidation benefits or master airway bill benefits, but they would get a vote.
Correct.
Right.
If they're the importer of record,
If they're the importer of record, which
Correct.
Okay, that answers that question for me. Thank you. It was a big one for me.
Cool. Any other questions with it? Go for it. Just riff off.
No, I think what's important to get out to the world, and hopefully we're doing that, is that I narrow it down. I used to think you were competing for the same dollars. I'm over that now. I get it. That the flower feeling is what it is, and I love the thought that Floral Board might, if it passes, would use some of those funds and direct them right in that direction. Why not? It makes total sense. So it's really just a matter of that gap, as I see it, between what it says 2 years. It takes almost 2 years before Floral Board would really do anything, right?
Correct.
So it's that gap between now and then that that flower feeling or CalFlowers program needs to be funded to do so. So that's what I think the message has to be out there.
Will, if I may add that timeline, so that timeline, when we say 2 to 3 years, that's from when you start basically submitting the documentation to USDA, and none of that has happened. All right, so let's, we want to be very clear. There's nothing that has been submitted to USDA to say, okay, we would like to, the industry is interested in this order and would like to take the steps necessary. USDA has a whole review process. I'm not the most versed in all those details. They go through it, they make sure that they like the way it's written, that it represents the entire industry. Kind of going back to the one company, one vote concept, USDA, if they were to say, well, if it's a share, they might say, well, this would then be controlled only by a few companies, and that's not fair for everybody. So you can see that there's also a dynamic that has to be played to say, well, what is the way to write this best so that USDA is also okay with it and lets it go forward, so that we can actually put some dollars to use and get some marketing out there, like our friends at Flower Feeling put together.
And you had mentioned, Eric, that it hasn't been processed yet or turned in. What's holding that back, and when will that be done?
Eric, let me just say this real quick. So the interesting thing is that when this started and there was a lot of misinformation that was going around, there was a group of people from all segments of the industry, domestic growers, you had importers, wholesalers, you had, Eric, I think it was 10 of us or whatever it was that started the conversation. Yes. Nothing has been submitted. As a matter of fact, we kept saying nothing has been submitted. We kept saying, hey guys, let's get more information from the industry. We were just a group of people that were put together just to get the ball rolling. Okay. And then when I, like you said, when I was at the Marketing Roundtable at WFFSA in March, and I first met Steve, that's really when some of the conversations started happening. And what's great is the way the Floral Board started, the document that was presented or was first written to where it is now has changed dramatically just by getting feedback from the industry. And I want to be clear also that it's not written in stone yet. And again, nothing has been submitted. And I think one of the issues that we were having was just the misinformation that was going around the industry, that we had to take a step back and say, hey, wait, we need to keep having some more of these conversations so people understand the conversation has started. We'd love to get feedback from everyone to see what works, what doesn't work. Is there going to be one foolproof thing that everyone loves and rejoices? Remember, we're in the flower business. We have gone a 180 versus where this started and conversation that's happened between domestic growers, CalFlowers, with everyone, that I think has been a huge benefit, not only for myself, but for everyone else, that, you know, to understand what other people were thinking. And I think that it's really made what we're trying to do much better than where we started.
And
So is
I
it
know,
safe to say this floral board will be at least 3 years or more away?
I would say 2 to 3. I don't know for sure. Like Eric said, I'm not, you know, I'm not an expert, but definitely at least 2 years.
So we get the industry to help support that flower feeling that's already out there. We're going to be looking at our 4th or 5th campaign by that time. And so I think it's really important if we get a united industry to advertise nationally like we're doing now, that Flower Feeling Foundation is out there. We just need to get enough people on board to keep it going until Floral Board becomes something, and then we can maybe join forces in advertising, you know?
and I something talking about that, Joost, something that was interesting in the Bloom room when we were talking. One of the questions was, how can the Floral Board help that flower feeling? So I know you had mentioned something, Eric, which meant a lot for me to hear. Can you tell us about your thoughts with that?
Sure. I mean, first off, Floral Board, you know, if passed and that board is formed, which neither Oscar nor I or anybody's on that board because it has to be passed to be implemented. But that board will be looking where to spend funds that inspire consumers to buy more flowers on an everyday basis. And I don't have to have a degree in marketing to know that what the Flower Feeling has done is really great messaging and has a lot of potential. It should turn some heads. And I think, Steve, you mentioned that you even have metrics coming back to that as well
Yes.
of you know, the kind of increasing intent to purchase flowers. If down the road, if Floral Board was formed and I had the privilege to be on that board, I would cast an opinion saying, hey, that Flower Feeling has great messaging. We don't have to hire an ad agency to recreate the wheel. Let's start putting some funds towards it. Obviously, that's a decision that has to be voted on. Again, the board, as written, the board of Floral Board would be consisted of basically half domestic growers and half importers. So all of our other colleagues on that board would have to agree to that.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, I would see that there is a unique opportunity for, you know, Flower Feeling, Flower Feeling were to continue. It's got the right messaging, I think it has a great messaging, great creative, great tone, and it just makes a logical fit to.
And that's a great segue to hearing from Jeannie and for Steve and Joost. What have been your response from your customers, especially after Fun and Sun, not your customers, my apologies, from the audience, from the flower industry? What has been the response, especially after the presentations you've done at the Fun and Sun and all those things that you've been doing to get out the information now?
It's been fantastic. We've been really, really pleased. Just a couple of foundational points I want to make. First of all,
Please.
One thing that we figured out pretty quickly through the March WFFSA meeting, forward on through Fun and Sun, forward into SAF, next week is IFPA, through all the industry events, is that the will to market as an industry is absolutely there at almost 100% level. I mean, I have yet to talk to anybody who doesn't want to see something happen that'll move the needle for consumption in the United States. That's a given. The whole industry agrees on that. The second foundational point is, unless individual companies are willing to shake loose dollars from their existing marketing budget or whatever way that makes sense for them, it's not going to happen. There has to be a financial mechanism in place in order for the industry to have its proxy marketing entity, whether that's that Flower Feeling, Floral Board, or any other variation. It's going to take companies to donate some money and some resources to make it happen. As far as the response we got from the industry was super strong. I mean, literally almost 100% positive. But the beauty is we have the metrics to back up the performance. So the goal that CalFlowers board set out with was we knew that we had a pool of resources that was somewhat unique in the industry. And we were in the middle of COVID, and we knew that we wanted to get to market as quickly as possible and demonstrate to the industry that we could actually make an impact with a modest marketing budget that would make sense for the industry as a whole. So we created the campaign, we launched the campaign, and now we're in the funding part of the campaign, tying back to the financial need aspect. So we set up a foundation called That Flower Feeling Foundation. As of today, over 50 companies have contributed. Our most recent contributors are Sun Valley Floral Farms, Alexandra Farms, Grow Flowers, Arizona Floral Exchange, Burge Florist. We have companies from all industry segments that are jumping in on this, making contributions that make sense for them as a company. We're not asking any company to give any more than 1/100% of their gross revenues. It's a drop in the bucket. But if we get hundreds of floral companies to do it, we absolutely will have the budget to maintain the sterling quality that everybody now expects from That Flower Feeling and get back out there in the social media space. And what does it mean for us to get back out there? Well, so far, with the budget that the CalFlowers board allocated from our own resources, we've hit 48 million consumers across all different social media platforms. We've made 60 million impressions on social media. So a lot of those consumers were hit multiple times. We hired the gold standard in marketing analytics, a company called Lucid, who has reported back to us that through their online surveys, they've discovered that consumers exposed to the campaign who were not prior interested in flowers have an 8% positive shift in their intent to purchase. So that's a big, important number. What that means is that 8% of our 48 million consumers are now very seriously considering or express that they do intend to buy fresh flowers. If you run the math and carry that all the way to its conclusion, we've activated potentially $200 million in floral sales in the 1 quarter that we ran the campaign, which is a massive number. And all of our marketing agencies and our market analytics agencies agree that that is the appropriate number. That's the number that would be applied regardless of the industry you're looking at. So that's a really, really significant move forward for the floral industry. But there's one really interesting piece of data that's just come up over the last couple of weeks because we're currently in a cycle where our agency is applying for various marketing awards. We most recently were put on a final list for the ADCN Awards, the Creativity Awards in Holland. Wow. Very, very prestigious. We took second place on that. This was just last week the awards were handed out. So the campaign is getting a lot of recognition. But in order to support the efficacy of the campaign, we dug into our shipping numbers. So as everybody knows, CalFlowers has contracts with FedEx, and we also have an important shipping contract with GLS, which is a West Coast express transport company. And here's something that anybody in the floral industry should find as shocking as we did when we came across these numbers, which is our campaign ran from January into the first week of March of 2022. In our shipping numbers, so our FedEx accounts, there's between 850 and 900 linked FedEx accounts. So if you look at the aggregate data across all those shipping numbers, the floral industry itself, fresh flower shipping went up from February into March of 2022 for the first time ever. So we shipped more flowers on FedEx as an industry in March than we did in Valentine's Day month, February, which is a shocking, and it was not an insignificant increase. It was about a 15% increase. That is right on the heels of the campaign running. And that is being viewed by our market analytics firm as being perhaps the most key piece of information that we can demonstrate a physical increase in the uptake of flowers immediately following on the heels of our campaign in an unprecedented way that's never happened in decades before, an actual volume increase from February to March. So we've come across some really compelling data that shows that the campaign works. And now we're in the process of getting that news out to the industry and asking people to fund the campaign. Because, and we've gotten great, we're up to about $650,000 in funding so far. That's enough for us to get back out with our next launch. You should see us back out in social media before the end of the year. We'll target another 20 to 30 million more consumers, keep moving the needle. And as the funding keeps coming in and the companies to set up recurring payments, that cash keeps coming to the foundation. The only reason the foundation exists is to market fresh flowers to consumers. So all that cash will be converted directly into more marketing spend. And our industry, despite all these issues, all the obstacles, the different segments having their own set of concerns, the bottom line is we'll be out there and we will be moving the needle. We just need everybody to support the foundation at this time. If we continue to build this thing and show the industry over and over and over again how successful national marketing campaigns scaled in this fashion can be for all of our individual companies, these conversations become much, much easier over time, because all the business owners and decision makers will clearly see the impact that's happening in their business, which is a big question mark prior to the industry actually having a national campaign. Well, we've got one now, and we know that it worked. So I think that if there's any take-home point from any conversations around industry marketing, I think that's it, that this works. Marketing is highly effective, and we need to keep after it as an industry, and we've got some channels to do it.
Yeah, and if I may add something, Steve, our friends in Kenya who are watching, Cookie.
Yeah.
Cookie. If you're listening, you can participate too. It's very easy. Steve has a link, and exporters from Kenya who sell more roses in the U.S. join the party, join the campaign. We have 300 million plus people here, a lot of consumers that will buy flowers. So if you can help grow the business, if your business benefits, participate in the campaign at your level.
The other thing I wanted to point out too is that the efforts behind promoting and marketing the campaign itself, Flowers for Self-Care, has continued throughout this whole year, even though we did targeted spends when Steve was describing the January to beginning of February, end of February through March. We've kept the conversation alive on social media as well. And as we move forward, and we have funding right now, we are going to be looking at other channels of marketing this thing as well. So there's opportunity in print media. There are conversations this morning, Mornings on Mayish had a gal talking about flowers for wellness. They looped into the discussion that flower feeling campaign to their audience. There's Wellness Week was last week, or Wellness Month, and flowers were a focal point on some of the magazines that are targeting that demographic that's going after self-care, after wellness, mental health, all of those great things. And then possibly looking at, depending on the funding, like, can we leverage some actual screen television time with that video that was so phenomenally produced, and looking at possibly targeting. I think television advertising on certain channels has become more affordable. You've got HDTV. I just saw FTD running an ad on HDTV the other day. So I think there's a lot of opportunities to get that flower feeling and Flowers for Self-Care as the campaign out in front of other eyeballs, not just on social. And we're exploring all of those things to keep the campaign going and to keep flowers in front of consumers.
I really want to go back, and thank you so much for that, Jeannie. And I would love to learn how the San Francisco flower market is engaging with this, because you're boots on the ground there. But I want to go back to Steve Dion in the sense that, going back to Eric and Oscar, knowing all those KPIs, what we've just heard, which are amazing KPIs, is that something that will strengthen your Floral Board presentation? Is that information and statistics that you could use to make it a better argument to move forward with this?
I mean, I think,
Oscar, if you understand.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's at this point when you say make an argument about it. It's
not an argument, but
not an argument.
Sorry,
and
I
will say this: the stats don't lie. Other promotional orders, they don't lie either. So you look at what other people have done, and you try to see, hey, is this worth doing? Is it not worth doing? what all the numbers that Steve was talking about right now are it's like it's speaking our language. And when when the Floral Board started, one of the biggest things that people would say is, what are the numbers? What are the numbers? Well, nothing's been done, so we can't say whether it's going to increase the consumption and the price of flowers in the industry or not. But one thing that we were convinced on is that if we had to bet on it, we'd say that it absolutely would. Everything he was saying was spot on to hear the potential this industry has moving forward in the future. And right now, what we're doing is we're trying to look around the corner. If we didn't know this was important, this conversation wouldn't be taking place, whether you're an importer, a domestic grower, a wholesaler, a retailer, it doesn't matter. Countless meetings that I've been in, like someone when we started this conversation said, everyone's always talking about how can we market our product? How can we increase the consumption of flowers? How can we get more for our flowers, especially now with the increase in cost? So it's like what's great about what you're hearing here, whether you're Floral Board or whether you're talking about that flower feeling, we're all talking about the same thing. We're looking at is what vehicle are we going to use to get there in the long run, in the long term. We believe that a promotional order for the industry would make the most sense because we would all be putting into this that's bigger than any of us. This is bigger than any of us. And we believe this industry can be, we're on the tip of a rocket and we just need that push to continue to get us moving forward, and the push that we've all experienced the last 2 years. And what's interesting is here we are in a market, and we were in September, they were all kind of looking at each other saying, hey, are we kind of getting back to normal here as where we were in 2019, because we were all on this high for the last 2 years. And what we're saying is what we're trying to do is get flowers to become front of mind in every household in the United States. If we can do that, let me tell you, we all win. Again, it's having these conversations to say, how are we going to get there? And, being part of the Floral Board group, we believe that, having this promotional order would make the most sense for us. And I'm going to say something right now. We believe in that flower feeling. Equiflor will be pledging, because we believe in marketing. We believe in marketing for the industry. Equiflor is making a commitment to do this. Now, that being said, we believe wholeheartedly that in order to keep this and have it sustainable for the long term, the promotional order is going to be the way to go.
If I can add, Sahid, I think one thing that all 7 of us here can agree is that we believe in marketing, we believe in advertising, that it can change a consumer's action, right, and their prioritization of where they want to spend their dollars. So we're not competing against each other. We're not competing against domestic or imported flowers. We're competing against all the other knickknacks and things that other people will choose to spend their money on. Now, I think here where we differ is what's the vehicle to get there. I commend Oscar in voluntarily donating to the Flower Feeling. I haven't decided from Continental Flowers if I'm going to do that or not. Let me share with everybody how my analysis of why I think the voluntary donation model isn't the fairest for the industry. And with all due respect, folks at CalFlowers, because really I might, tip my hat to you for everything that you guys have done. You've gone out and lived and you've done a lot. But I could sit here and say, Oscar, thank you for donating. Thank you for keeping Flower Feeling going. I'm not going to take on that cost, but I can reap the rewards. Because Oscar has his market share. I have my market share. Hopefully consumers will, and I do believe that the flower, campaign like Flower Feeling, if it has the funding and if it can, be launched nationwide or something of that nature, could increase the level of consumption. But now Oscar, is also getting his share of that increased consumption, but he paid for it and I didn't. So I'm riding his coattails. And that's something that Floral Board and the promotional order completely prevents. Okay, prevents the coattail effect. It prevents free riders. So my message here is Floral Board is fair. It's the fairest way that we can all achieve the same thing. And that's why I think that the industry should embrace the Floral Board, should provide input on how to make it better. There could be better ways to, things to improve on it. But if we were to come together as an industry and say, hey, let's vote for it and let's implement this, because we believe in marketing and campaigns like the Flower Feeling, and we want to fund that and other campaigns that can be brought together. I mean, Flower Feeling, what's the targeted amount that you guys are looking to raise this year? Steve, Juice.
Well, we set out initially with a $2.5 million budget, and we're shooting for 2.5 to 5 million annually in terms of revenue.
So guys, imagine what you're gonna do with $15 million a year. 15 fair dollars. We could do a lot. We could do a lot together. We could do 3 to 5 times as much as you're planning on doing, and we could assess the entire industry on a very fair basis.
I understand that, Eric, but with all due respect, this is going on right now. Floral Board 3 years away at a minimum.
Yeah.
So why not support the campaign that has started? You don't have to give that much, but support it and tell other colleagues, competitors, tell people to support it. Get on board. Your retailers, all your customers, even $20 a month for a florist would be helpful. And how do you get that money? Well, you just look at your advertising marketing budget. When things slow down in the country, it's important to market flowers because people are inclined to do the opposite, spend less, but it's actually, you should increase your spending on marketing. That's what our company does too. We just redirect some funds and focus on this cause because it's going to take a generation to change the mindset of the consumer in this country to buy flowers. Flowers are cool. Flowers are good for your health. As Jeannie pointed out, all these points about the campaign. So why not? We're not talking about it, we're doing it, but we also need to get this campaign needs to move forward continuously. So to sit and wait for a couple of years to say, well, maybe I'm going to support it, that's great, but we can use your money now. So sure.
Williee, did you have a question?
Yeah, I would just. I think we're singing to the choir here. I think all of us are on more or less the same page. We all want to participate at some level. Whether how we do it is the vehicle, right? So, can we learn anything from history? We've been down this road. The original Floral Board. Who was here? Maybe Oscar. Were you around that? That's a long time ago.
He's been around.
I was around.
I was.
Well, there was, it happened, and it didn't happen. I think it just didn't get the votes, as I recall. But Buzz the Bee did, or how did? And that, can we learn from the failures? Because ultimately, we got to collect money here, and how we're going to do that, or who's going to do that, and the mechanism we're going to do is going to be important. Did we learn anything from that, from Buzz?
Well, it was very fragmented. And what was interesting, again, the industry back then to what it is now, I think there's a lot more synergies that are involved, and people are saying, hey, wait a second, we know the history of this in this business, what everyone's, certain people thought of other certain people and things that took place, whether it was good, good, bad, indifferent, right, wrong. Looking now to the future again, and I look at Buzz the Bee, I think if it was sustainable, I think whether it was Buzz or we would have used something else, I think it definitely would have made a difference. But people were looking at, when you have people pulling from different sides and everyone wanted to get a piece, it's not going to work. And that's why with us, the promotional order gives you one, everyone's on the same page, everybody. And no one, and I always say, oh, how are you going to pay for it? I don't know about everyone, but when my freight goes up, my price goes up. You pass it along and the number's so, you don't even feel it. It's small. And if you're always looking at, listen, what am I going to pay by the end of the year? It's no different. That there's a duty in Ecuador. You're paying 6.8% on that. Guess what? You got to pay 6.8% and you're passing on the cost. It's no different. But again, going back to the Buzz the Bee thing, I just think that you had too many people pulling in different directions. And this promotional order gives everyone to be on the same field, same playing field, which I think will help everybody.
That's why I think that the two groups can work so well together, because CalFlowers approached this differently than the Floral Board. We felt that we couldn't go out and ask for funding without some kind of proven track record of what kind of product we were going to come back to the marketplace with. And so we reached out to the same ad group that the Dutch Flower Council uses in Europe. They have a presence in the US as well. And we felt we could produce something really dynamic, on point, on trend, targeted at the consumer, that would be effective, and then help draw at least the US market together, hopefully the global floral community together, because none of us, no one segment of this industry, no one association in this industry can go it alone. We all know that. Advertising is expensive. We created turnkey options for people that that we know those folks who support it and believe in it and use it. I mean, that's the other thing, Eric, like, use it. It doesn't matter if you're not going to support it right now. Test it out. Get it in front of your customers. Let them play with it, because it does help all of us in the long run. It will float all boats as the tide goes up. So that was our approach, was let's put something out there and prove that we can market effectively and advertise effectively, and hopefully bring everybody along as we move forward.
And I want to say something real quick. I was very fortunate to be invited to Fun and Sun this year. And then when Steve finished his fantastic presentation, you have people clapping in the room. You have a buzz in the room because everyone wants to see what this industry could do if we were to market as one, which is great to see. I was in a meeting during Congressional Action Days at SAF, and there was a segment of the program talking about Floral Board and Floral Board and that flower feeling. It was both. And when the conversation was over, people, why aren't we doing this as an industry? Why can't we do this as an industry? And it was people in there that are going to be, their price of product is going to go up because there's a lot of retailers in the room. And it's like everyone in this industry wants to do something. But again, I want to reiterate, we're all going in the same direction, all of us. And this conversation has to continue. And if there's something that you want to say, please speak up. Go to floralboard.org and write a question, comment. Everything that's been discussed is on there. But I'm going to tell you, I've had conversations with Steve and Yost that I would have otherwise never had. And I've been in this industry for 28 years. And it's great. It's refreshing to hear that at least our different segments are coming to the table and saying, hey, these conversations are happening. They're real. We all want it. We need to make this happen. We, as an industry, we definitely need to make this happen so that we can make sure that there's a future, not only for us now, but the people that are coming behind us.
And if I can mention
great that Equiflor is sponsoring the campaign. Appreciate that.
Yes.
And if I could mention as well to the audience, if there's any questions you'd like to ask, please feel free. Now's the time to ask those difficult questions. You know, there's a lot of, sometimes there's noise in the background, as everybody said, and as Oscar had said in the beginning, there was misconceptions. Now's the time to clear those misconceptions, because you're going to hear from the horse's mouth, right? So you're going to hear from the source. Eric, were you going to say something?
I was just going to kind of, give an example where Oscar was saying, hey, speak up, go to floralboard.org, read the documents, let us know what you think. I mean, it was in part of the outreach and different conversations that we all had, that elements, the initial elements that came out were changed, were modified, were changed. We even had a conference call with Certified American Grown that expressed some of their concerns. We made some modifications to the order there. So, what's there is not, written in stone. Bring forward some suggestions. We want to get, all the folks to be supportive of it, in all the different camps, all the different associations. So yeah.
I consider Yost and Jeannie Rose are more grassroots, and their feet on the ground, and it affects them. They could see how it affects. So can Yost or Jeannie, can you share with us, and yourself, Jeannie, as well, how has your market taken into it? How have they responded? Have you heard from floors? How is that vibe happening from the grassroots up?
So I'll go before Yost. So I was fortunate to bring back some of the T-shirts from WFFSA that we had for that flower feeling, and I was particular about which florists I gave the T-shirts out to in my market, our customers, because I knew they would do something with them. I knew that they were going to play with them and have fun with them. We had a lot of swag left over that I was able to start the conversation on what is available to them to use and to play with. All of them, most of them are very active in their own social media channels. This just gives them some more graphics, some more information, some more things to put out in front of their customers, to create for themselves. I also have swag from my market that the San Francisco Flower Mart is on the front. We have that flower feeling on the back. My crew is working the market and the parking lot, and that flower feeling is popping out all over the place, even really, really early in the morning when this market's busy. So it started the conversation and allowed me to continue to tell folks in Northern California what is available to them to market flowers to their customers, and how we're trying to unite the industry together. And a lot of these people, they're either one-man shops in San Francisco. The interesting thing in the Bay Area that happened during COVID is not only the consumption of flowers, but there were about 10 retail brick and mortar stores that opened up in San Francisco alone, which I hadn't heard of in years in this city because rents were so ridiculously expensive. But they were doing so well, and corner storefronts that little markets that were selling flowers out every single day during COVID. So it's an opportunity for me because I do have every segment. I often look at this market as a petri dish into the industry, because I have growers, I have logistics, I have wholesalers, and on the flip side, on the retail side, I've got everything from a brick and mortar store down to a home stager, interior decorator, gift shop, you name it, anybody who's using flowers in their businesses, restaurants, catering services. And they were all experiencing the best part of flowers during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like we all could not do anything, but you could put pops of color in your house when you're working from home, and flowers did that effortlessly for people and relatively affordable for people that were locked down for as long as we were. Now, Yost, what did you do?
All right. So where do you want me to start? We got, what, a half hour left or 45 minutes?
About 22 minutes, 10 minutes for you.
So the T-shirts Jeannie was referring to, what people need to do is, you can go to thatflowerfeeling.org, and the assets, meaning all the logos, the video, the spots we have are available for free. It's not a Dutch word, but gratis is a Dutch word. So you can download those and use them in your local market. I've had several customers around the country who've done this. And what the San Francisco Flower Market did and what Floral Abundance did is, I have on the T-shirts now that I had printed locally with the logos, I've got the Floral Abundance logo on the sleeve, which is great. So we give them away to customers, walk-ins. We send them to people, and we're going to start a contest with most original photos taken to that flower feeling. The key is, again, that people download the assets, that they understand it's free to use. You don't have to have permission. You just need to sign up. It takes a second. And you go to partners. Steve can tell you more about it. And you get activated. Your account gets activated. You can download the whole kit and caboodle and use it. It's important that you tell other floral industry partners, whether it's trucking companies, wire service companies should be involved. So the people who use wire services, tell your reps to get involved in a campaign. Online marketers, who just ship online flowers, they should all be involved in that flower feeling, because if we move the needle, it would be great for the entire industry. So everybody benefits, including Armellini, Williee, as you know, shipping more boxes. And so let's get the word out and use the campaign assets that are available on the website. And then there's also a link. There'll be a link for to make a pledge. It's very easy, donation link. Maybe you can post it later after the show. And you can do as little as $20 a month or a one-time payment. We like a little program, of course, because it's part of your advertising budget. This is free advertising right now that CalFlowers sponsored, but that flowerfeeling.org is an independent foundation now. And so we just need to move forward to sell more flowers to more people more often.
And if we have
Yeah,
if we had every business that was in the business of selling flowers conveying the same messages as the campaigns develop. Right now it's flowers for self-care. Who knows what the next campaign will be based around? But if we're all talking the same language to the American consumer, it's going to grow the market share if we all have the same messaging.
Yeah, and tying back to what both Yost and Dini are saying, there's an important distinction to understand about that flower feeling. One is the brand. So that flower feeling is the brand. And the reason that was created was to be the consumer-facing front of the floral industry. And it was created to be very generalized, very non-specific to any origin, any segment, anything. Our goal is not to lead consumers to a specific retail outlet, not to lead consumers to buy any sort of specific types of flowers, just to engage them in a new way with the floral industry, in a way that makes sense for them with the demographics that we targeted. So the idea is for that flower feeling and that flower feeling foundation, which is the funding mechanism, to move many, many, many years in the future. Separate from that is the campaign, which is called Flowers Self-Care Made Easy. That's why you keep hearing us refer back to the self-care concept. That ties again into the demographic piece, the millennials that we were targeting and that sort of thing. That is designed to change over time. So our first creative decision was to focus on that demographic, decide on messaging that relates to self-care. So we move flowers out of that life event category that we've kind of all painted ourselves in that corner: weddings, funerals, birthdays, anniversaries, life events in general, into the self-care space. And that was specifically designed to create weekly purchases, monthly purchases, routine ringing of the cash register by consumers in a way that makes sense for them, which has been something that our markets wanted for a very, very long time, that we do see in other first world economies that are far higher in consumption than the United States is. But it is important to understand what that distinction means, because when Yost talks about downloading the assets, what you have is campaign assets, like the film that we launched. There's social posts, there's Instagram stories, there's influencer recordings, there's voiceovers that can be used on local radio spots. There's all sorts of stuff. But there's also that flower feeling logo. And we want everybody to download that logo and put it on your website, print it on your company materials, put it on bouquet wraps, put it on, ribbons and gift boxes and truck wraps, and also amplify it on social media, get it out. Our industry has brilliant social media presence all over the place. We're such a visually stunning industry. We have that. That's a massive marketing advantage that we already possess as an industry. We just need everybody to come together and reinforce that brand, because what we're trying to do is build the brand recognition. So consumers begin to feel something, feel a sense of recognition, a sense of repetition when they get exposed to that flower feeling. We want them to get it on social. We want to get it what's referred to in marketing as out of home, which is either a billboard or a truck wrap or a gift box or whatever that looks like. And so we're trying to kind of attack this from all angles, but it is important to understand that distinction, because what we're asking the industry to do is fund that flower feeling brand, that flower feeling foundation, so that we in turn can continue to generate new creative ideas and executions that can activate sales in the floral industry. So that's kind of as a big picture, that's what we're trying to accomplish. The low hanging fruit is everybody can get on thatflowerfeeling.org, request access, and immediately download and deploy all those assets. So far, about 260 companies in the floral industry have done this. Wow. There's no way to measure how many times these marketing assets have been amplified through industry channels that already exist. But our best guess is in the millions upon millions at this point, in addition to the paid social that we accomplished on our own with the marketing budget. So it's a really, really important piece of it. And we really want to encourage people to get on there, engage with the brand, engage with the campaign, use it to leverage your own business, use it to grow your own business. And then in turn, as you start to see the value in it, make a contribution to make this thing keep happening. And every few months, you're going to get a new set of assets on the website that everybody gets to download all over again. Everybody gets to amplify. And you can see that there's obviously a snowball effect that we're striving for here. So if we have over 250 companies that have downloaded and used the assets, We're approaching 60 companies that have already contributed. There's hundreds more that have expressed interest in contributing to the foundation. We really think we've got this thing moving in the right direction. So we will be going to the IFTF show in Holland the second week of November. We'll have a booth there. That's where we plan on engaging with a lot of the breeders in Holland, a lot of the international global flower traders that have an interest in the U.S. market. All the Italians are going to be there. The Australians are going to be there. A ton of growers from Africa, Ecuador, Colombia. We're already seeing a really strong level of support from Ecuador and Colombia, which has been very, very encouraging for us. And we're hoping to continue to drive that momentum. But also U.S. wholesalers, U.S. retailers might be the key to the whole thing, because our model is microfunding. We want everybody to give us a little bit. And if everybody gives a little bit, we'll have more than enough to transform the industry in terms of growth prospects.
Fantastic. Willie, I'm going to go to our other co-host, David, in a second. And Jeannie was encouraging me to take his questions. He has like a book of questions and comments. But Willie, do you have any additional questions? I'm
just kind of curious. What's the fundraising mechanism? Obviously, you've got some ideas about how, and there's a place to do it. But you're sort of in a good old-fashioned fundraising. It's like a campaign here. You got to get this something in the front of everybody. Everybody's involved, but not everybody's listening to this. What we're doing here today, right? I don't know what our audience is, but our
repetition is important, like advertising. And I've made calls. I email companies, growers I do business with, say, hey, you showed an interest, and they say, yeah, we're going to participate, and then a couple of weeks later, nothing has happened. They said they forgot, or it's on their list of things to do. So reminding people, companies, individuals about the campaign. That's why the floral organizations from all avenues could help keep this on the forefront, write about it, do press release, do a story about how it's going. Willie, you'll be taking photos and video, hopefully, in front of our booth in the Netherlands, in Vijfhuizen, in a couple of weeks. And we're going to approach all these other growers and people in the floral industry that have a benefit of an increased U.S. market situation. So you got to keep repeating it. It's like, it's like with anything else. People say they have great intentions. You got to keep it on the forefront. And so we can start talking about the next campaign, talk to the creatives. We have great screenwriters in Holland, of copywriters. They just won an award, as Steve mentioned, our group. And it's a fun group to work with. And I can't wait to see what they come up with next,
So let me take a question from David here. David Kaplan, my business partner from Floral Flowers. Sorry, Jeannie, I know you're covered. David Kaplan says, taking the devil's advocate, how do you see the likelihood of companies participating heavily during the current inflationary time where many companies are challenged because of cost increasing? Does anybody want to take that? I guess that's more.
I'd like to field this one.
Feeling.
This question, I was over in Amsterdam in late July and having a sit down with our marketing agency over there, and they deal with Deutsche Bank and Adidas and HBO, and they've got some very big clients with some high level marketing they're involved in. And I asked them the same question, and they forwarded me 4 in marketing industry articles, all of which basically were saying, in time of inflation, in time of recession, the natural instinct for most companies, as they're looking at their upcoming fiscal year budget, is to curtail expenses. But the data proves that is exactly the moment when you should be increasing your marketing budget, not decreasing, because it's the single best opportunity to pick up market share. And what that flower feeling is trying to accomplish for the industry is to pick up market share in a very crowded field of self-care, gifting, all these different sentimental things that consumers can spend their dollars on. And the more we can pump into it now, the better chance we have at increasing market share. And even the tiniest slice of market share that we can grab from some of these other industries is going to be massively impactful for ours. So the common accepted best practice in marketing industry is that in difficult times, economically, you increase your marketing budget, not decrease.
You keep steady, Freddie. And we saw that during COVID, and that's what David's saying here. The COVID bump was great, but as we come back to reality, it would be hard to convince companies with marginal bottom line bottom lines to contribute. But I think that if you're taking that concept of stay steady, Freddy, and stay on your marketing budget, you will see the payback. And many of the companies we advised for did see that during COVID, which that's a good point you brought up, Steve. And then I have another comment here. See, David went on he continued. Total industry support needs to take place for success. We saw what happened the last time when there was too much opposition. And I guess he's alluding to the other boards that there were and initiate incentives. I lost the words right now. I'm sorry.
And I think Oscar's right. The industry has changed. Look who's on this panel here. It's a different industry these days. The Colombians and the California guys used to fight like crazy, and if you recall all those bad duty days, now we're having this conversation. Half of the California growers import flowers from Colombia and Ecuador anyway. So I think that maybe the landscape has changed and maybe be in a more favorable position, I hope.
And Williee, I'd like to say, I don't think it's changed. It's definitely changed.
It's changed, yes.
It's
Well, I
changed.
think it's
No question
exciting
about
that we have Lane.
And Williee, I don't think it's changed. It's definitely changed.
I like to mention companies like Sun Valley is one of the largest growers in the U.S. Lane DeVries loves the campaign. He put money behind it. He's a domestic grower, and it's going to change some of the attitudes of some other growers in the U.S. that say, well, it's all imported anyway. Oregon Flowers just joined the campaign too. The Meskers family, they love the campaign. So it's just a start.
And I'd like to shout out Holland America as well. It's another, one of your larger California growers. They absolutely see the benefit in it. And Ben Odoba has become one of our biggest supporters, getting out there, talking to the other California farms and encouraging them to consider contributing. And so that's what we're looking for. We need people, individuals in the industry to step up. So let's say, Oscar mentioned earlier on in the conversation, Equiflor is intending on making their contribution. Once you do, put out an email blast to your own, constituents and say, we are proud that we have just made this contribution to the foundation. We think you should do the same. And that's the sort of support and momentum we really feel like we can build. And the better it goes for that flower feeling, the better the prospects become for Floral Board, because we'll continue to demonstrate how impactful this can truly be. So I think that, CalFlowers continues to come from the position of our board does not take a position on Floral Board. We feel that's an individual company decision that needs to be made. But we love the fact that everybody's engaged in this conversation. And CalFlowers, with what we launched, it really was a very altruistic venture. We don't have, sometimes when you serve at the association level, it takes a moment to separate yourself from being engaged in a for-profit business on a daily basis. CalFlowers is a nonprofit business. The only reason we exist is to benefit our stakeholders. That's the only reason we exist. And we decided that simply the best way we can do that, the most impactful thing we can do for our stakeholders, is to grow the market. And that's the extent of our motivation to do this. We have no further skin in the game. There's no profit potential for CalFlowers. And there is a distinct possibility that when governance is discussed a little bit further down the road, when the foundation is more well established with roots laid down and ongoing marketing campaigns, that there will be a discussion around governance of the foundation that could be representative across the entire industry as well. So there's a lot of little steps that are happening. Somebody mentioned earlier in this conversation, the industry is different now, and I fully agree with that. I think that we are in a much more collaborative period. Those of us that were around during Promoflow remember how combative it was. It was a time of massive upheaval, especially for domestic growers at that time. These were macroeconomic forces that really nobody had any control over. And now that shakeout is virtually complete. The industry's reorganized itself. People are in their channels. Most companies I talk to are operating profitably and successfully and growing the way they want to grow, which is great. And I think our next generation, a little bit younger than those of us on this call, some of us on this call, are I think have a much more generally collaborative and less combative approach than before. And I think that sets a great stage for success on these programs moving forward. I sincerely hope that's the case.
And I think that this is a great example of how you and Oscar and the Floral Board have worked together to highlight each other. And look what Oscar just did. So that's a great testament to what collaboration means, right? So congratulations to
Yes.
both of you. Williee, any last questions? I have a couple comments here. I'll share these, but any last questions on your end?
Hey, Joost, bring me a large That Feeling T-shirt to Amsterdam, will you?
XL or double XL? You
Well,
don't
you're
look
not
at
large.
I'm just a little guy here.
Yost
large
didn't
would be-
order slim fit, so
And I get a logo. I get a logo for your hat as well. That flower feeling in the front of your.
There you
Yeah,
go.
there you go.
Well, hey, wait, don't make my hat now.
We can make that happen, Willie.
All right, yeah. Well, then, other than that, hey, look, it's a great program. I hope we pull this off because it's needed.
I think together we will. And then David Kaplan had said, sorry for the 4 parts, only 200 characters at once. So we do have Olga Bono Code says, great show. Thank you all. He's a florist. He watches the show. And then Eric Hagstrom, Greens in Florida, says, I agree with David. But I hope you also see the light through Steve as well, that marketing is when the market is down, marketing is the time because it's more affordable and you reach much more people, as it was proven towards COVID. Opening it up for any final comments from anybody. And thank you again, wholeheartedly, from Williee and I, the Bloom Show and Flowers and Scents Show, to everybody that is watching, and most especially to our guest today. And it really, hopefully, we added value to you and add value to our audience. But would I want to open it up for any last comments or questions from any of you? Please feel
Hey,
free.
Flowers and Scents is going to make a contribution too. Okay.
Us as well.
Well, it's
For
free
sure.
to
All
join the campaign. It's free. All you need to do is follow the link that you're going to post later on your website or on the blog post of the live chat here. If you have any questions, go to thatflowerfeeling.org. Go to partners. He agrees over there in the background, Willie. And just join the campaign. If you want to sell more flowers, it's good for our industry. It's good for people. It makes people happy, keeps people sane in difficult times. And we're in this together. So let's show that we can unite the industry and move forward with this.
And if I may say, I think this is from what Steve Vion said, this is one of them that if you do participate in that flower feeling, it is one that you could brag and show off because it's only going to help the whole initiative. So
Yes.
brag, use that flower feeling hashtag and share it. Oscar, Eric, any or Jeannie, any last words?
No, I just want to say, go on floralboard.org. There's, like I said, when I started the conversation, there's been a lot of misinformation. If you have any questions, ask. There's a lot of people that be willing to answer. And if we don't have the answer, we'll be sure to find it. But we definitely, again, I want to say that we're on the right path as an industry. And I think this is something that could take us well into the future and make flowers a part of everyone's everyday life.
If I can kind of pose a question, ask, kind of walk through a scenario. Yost, you mentioned earlier that, hey, contribute to that flower feeling right now because Floral Board probably will not happen for 2 years at least. So yeah, we all say, okay, let's find some bridge funding till then. So let's say Floral Board was to get passed. Will that flower feeling and CalFlowers stop asking for voluntary funds if Floral Board's able to reinvest right back into a campaign like the flower feeling?
Well, I think it's a logical situation. If Floral Board becomes Floral Board and it's in place in 2 or 3 years, then yeah, I mean, if we agree on a national advertising campaign, I think you mentioned earlier, we've already reinvented the wheel. We've got a great ad agency. We have great writers, creatives. Who knows where we are 3 years from now with this campaign. And, we're working on a budget of like $2.5 to $5 million. But what if we have $20 million? Yeah, there's a lot more things we can do. And,
so I know that Steve mentioned that the CalFlowers board does not take a stand right now. Everybody has that should be up to everybody. But could we think that maybe one day CalFlowers board does support Floral Board or might be interested in supporting Floral Board?
I think that the generation behind us all on this call are very into collaboration. And I think it only benefits all of us when we collaborate. And it's very encouraging to see conversations like this. Put politics and the industry aside. We're all in the same boat. We're all trying to have Americans discover flowers maybe for the first time just for their own use. So I think we should all just keep moving forward in this positive direction and see where it takes Floral Board. It's encouraging to see what you guys are trying to do. And in the meantime, we're going to keep marketing flowers and hopefully our paths connect at some point.
Sure.
Yeah, Eric, I'm not
And
that
to
old.
answer Eric's question a little more directly, I'm not on the CalFlowers board anymore, so I can't speak for the board necessarily. But what I can commit to is that CalFlowers will be an active and willing participant in sharing information about Floral Board, helping to facilitate conversations, give access to our membership for any important messaging that takes place, and hopefully the work that we're doing with the foundation and ongoing is the single most supportive thing that we can do in terms of getting the marketing thing, moving forward if Floral Board ends up being the right answer for the industry. So, I think that the CalFlowers board, I've talked to SAF about this and WFFSA about this as well. I think it's difficult for the associations to take a position simply because it's a very proprietary business decision that involves quite a substantial allocation of funds. So I'm not sure that's our role as an association, but what our role is to benefit our stakeholders. And that means helping to promote these conversations, helping to amplify messaging and get it in front of the right people. And we're absolutely willing and enthusiastic about doing that.
And that flower feeling, again, is a separate foundation from CalFlowers Association.
It is a separate entity. That's true. So,
And we are volunteers. We do this at our own time.
Yes. And I think, and I was about to mention that for clarity I think associations cannot say we back this one 100% because they're a representation of many different businesses. So they have to be very, very bipartisan. Correct me if I'm wrong, Oscar and Steve.
But I will say this,
correct?
Every organization or association, I guarantee you, is in favor of marketing for the industry.
100%.
I think it's a bet.
Yes.
And they've
Yes,
given us a
that's a good
venue. They've allowed us in. So
and giving it a voice as well. So of course.
Sahid, I would disagree with you. An association can take a stance if they think it's in the best interest of the member, and the board agrees on it, right? The board of the association. That is depending on the board, what the association, what they have. In fact, actually, the Floral Board or any promotion order to be submitted to USDA, I think it's an association that has to submit it. So,
okay, I stand corrected if that's a fact, but I'm just intrigued. Oscar, do you have any information to say on that when it comes to SAF?
Well, no stance. There's no stance other than definitely believe in the power of marketing for the industry for sure.
And some background though, Floral Board and the drafting committee, or was first the drafting committee before Floral Board got its name, was formed because a summit of the associations back in, I think, 2019 said, hey, we think that our industry needs a marketing order, because they all believed in marketing, just like your friends from CalFlowers. So it was various associations that all came together, said, okay, let's a drafting committee. So my name was thrown in the ring because from the Import Association, Oscar from SAF, but we also had other participants on the drafting committee from CalFlowers, from Certified American Grown, from the Association of Specialty Cut Flower Growers. So a lot of associations participated in that because of that summit of the associations.
Great. Thank you for that. Any other comments or any last questions for each other? And I love that. Thank you, Eric, for asking that question. That opens up communication and conversation. So thank you for that. Any other questions from anybody? All right, cool. So everybody, thank you so much for your time. Jeannie, awesome. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Oscars. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Yos. Thank you so much, you guys, for spending your time with us and sharing so freely and openly. And I think that really just adds value to everybody. I have one last question or comment. Let me see what happened here.
I missed the helicopters flying over today.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that I remember. Give me a second here.
Huh?
Sorry, I've got it. Jeannie has to jump off. So, Jeannie, you could jump off. Don't worry. go ahead. We understand you're
Bye,
taking your time.
Thank
It's
you.
been more than an hour. But we do have Eric says, thank you all for your time, effort, and passion. No matter the route, hopefully we all increase the visibility of flowers and greens. And I think we all feel that way.
Here, here.
So here.
Thank you as well, Eric.
All right, guys. Thank you everybody for joining. Thank you, Eric, and the guests for tuning in. And I hope to see you guys next year. See you
Yeah,
in
thanks,
Warsaw.
everybody.
All right.
All right. Williee, stay
Thanks,
on.
everybody.
We're gonna
Thanks
say
for
our
having us.
goodbyes.
We really appreciate it.
Bye, guys. Thank you, guys.
Right.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Eugenie, as well.
Okay.
Oh,
Ciao.
Williee left. All right. Bye-bye, Steve. So Williee left me all by myself, but Williee and I would like to say thank you for joining the Flowers and Scents and the Bloom Show, brought to you by Above All Flowers, New Bloom Solutions, and Flowers and Scents. We truly hope that there's added value. We truly hope that you would share this, just like Steve Dion said, share it to your heart's content, right? So if you're participating, if you don't agree with it, share these links. Share this links with your audience. Share this links with your florists. Share this links with your wholesalers, with your customers, with your suppliers. Why? Because the more information they have, the better for the entire industry. There's a lot of noise in the background sometimes, and truly these events, these conversations, putting everybody together at once would hopefully shed light and create an equal playing ground for everybody to give their thoughts, give their opinions. So thank you again to all the guests that joined today for being so open with answering questions. And I love the fact that Eric asked a question as well, because that just shows that there's respect and awareness that everything's a little different, but it could work together. So thank you again to everybody for joining. Do keep an eye for our next month. We are going to take a pause in December, so take advantage come October and November. Do take advantage and keep an eye out for our Expo Flores video of us interviewing some tables, some booths, and that should be going out today. So keep an eye on that. Thank you again for joining, and don't forget to subscribe, like, or press the alert key. Take care.